This is Consumers Doctor on the behalf of Foremost Organization. On the healthcare segment, we have been talking about yoga, and yesterday I briefly explained to you what the yoga is, what the benefits of yoga, and what is the definition of a yoga. Today we'll learn a little bit about history of yoga. That'll be interesting. How did this come about? How did this yoga originate? Where did it come from? And because yoga has been very popular especially in the West. So let me briefly talk about how it originated. So yoga's history has many places of obscurity and uncertainty due to its oral transmission of sacred texts and the secretive nature of its teachings. Yeah, it has been quite secretive for quite some time. The early writings on yoga were transcribed on fragile palm leaves that were easily damaged and destroyed or lost. So the development of yoga can be traced back to over 5,000 years ago. Yes. Some researchers think that yoga may be up to 10,000 years old. Yoga's long, rich history can be divided into four main periods of innovation, practice, and development. That's what it is. When you talk about pre-classical yoga, the beginnings of yoga were developed by Indus Saraswati civilization in northern India over 5,000 years ago. The word yoga was mentioned in the oldest sacred texts that is Rig Veda. That is Rig Veda. The Vedas were a collection of texts containing songs, mantras, and rituals to be used by Brahmins, so-called Vedic priests. Yoga was slowly refined and developed by Brahmins and rishis who documented their practices and beliefs in the Upanishads, which is a huge work containing about 200 scriptures, Upanishads. You should look into that, Upanishads. Most renowned of the yogic scriptures most renowned yoga scripture is Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita composed around 500 BC. Upanishads took the idea of ritual sacrifice from the Vedas and internalized it, teaching the sacrifice of the yoga through self-knowledge, action, so-called karma yoga, and wisdom, so-called jnana yoga. Action is karma yoga, whereas wisdom is jnana yoga. Jnana means knowledge. Jnana yoga. It is more of a wisdom and action. What is classical yoga? So-called classical yoga. In the pre-classical yoga, it was a mishmash of various ideas. This is a pre-classical yoga. It was a mishmash of various ideas, beliefs, and techniques that often conflicted and contradicted with each other. The classical period, defined by Patanjali Yoga Sutras, the first systemic presentation of yoga, written sometime in 2nd century. This text describes the path of Raja Yoga, often called classical yoga. Raja Yoga is called classical yoga. Patanjali organized the practice of yoga into eight-limbed path containing the steps and stages towards obtaining the samadhi or enlightenment. Samadhi or enlightenment. Patanjali is often considered the father of yoga. Patanjali is considered as the father of yoga, and his yoga sutras still strongly influence most styles in the modern yoga. So, what in the modern period, in the late 1800s and early 1900s, yoga masters early 1900s, yoga masters began to travel to the West, attracting attention and followers. This began in 1893 at the Parliament of Religions in Chicago, when Swami Vivekananda wowed the attendees with his lectures on yoga and the universality of the world religions in 1893, folks. In 1920 and 30s, Hatha Yoga was strongly promoted in India with the work of T. Krishnamacharya, Swami Vivekananda, and other yogis practicing Hatha Yoga. Krishnamacharya opened his first Hatha Yoga school in Mysore in 1924. And 1936, Sivananda founded the Divine Life Society on the banks of the holy Ganges River. That was Sivananda in 1936. Krishnamacharya produced 3 students that would continue his legacy and they increase the popularity of Hatha Yoga. B.K.S. Iyengar, TKV, Desikachar, and Patabi Joyce. These were the 3 students of Sivananda. Sivananda was a prolific author, writings of 200 books on yoga, and established 9 ashrams and numerous yoga centers located around the world. That was Sivananda. So the importance of the yoga to the West still continued to trickle until Indra Devi opened her yoga studio in Hollywood, 1947. Indra Devi was the first one to set up a yoga studio in 1947. Since then, more Western and Indian teachers have become pioneers, popularizing Hatha Yoga and gaining millions of followers. Now, Hatha Yoga now has many different schools or styles, all emphasizing the many different aspects of Hatha Yoga. So this is the history of yoga, folks. This is how it originated and it became popular. And Sivananda, then Indra Devi, she's the first one to set up a yoga studio in Hollywood, 1947. And now it's more popular than ever. Yoga and even the meditation, combination of both, has been more popular in the West. This is the history of yoga, folks. I'm not sure how much you guys want to know about this, but just for the namesake, at least we know how it originated. Thank you for listening. This is Consumers Doctor, Consumers Doctor from on the behalf of Foremost Organization. We'll continue to talk about yoga and its benefits before we switch to the next topic on the health care segment, personalized healthcare, customer driven healthcare, folks, customer driven, because it is so important. The healthcare, we need to take care for our health. This is an asset. This is our asset. We need to take care for ourselves so we could be financially independent, so we don't have to spend money on our assets. So you will save money on the long run. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see you in the next episode of Health Care, customer driven healthcare, personalized healthcare. Salute. Bye.